probably come back to about, but I was curious, you two ladies weren't at the Park Inn for the big announcement of the pork
We
plant?
were at the Capitol working.
Right, so they didn't even ask you to come, or what happened? Because the governor came up,
Right, right.
so.
He does not schedule with us.
Okay, well, I just want to,
Did you know anything about it?
Hey,
It's all
can I
written out?
finish, Tom, or are you going to keep interrupting?
Oh, go ahead.
All right. I'd like to see if I can get you ladies on the record. Do you support the pork plant, or are you not supportive of it?
Well, that's not our decision, first of all.
No, I know it's not. You're
We were
right.
made aware of it, that there was an announcement on that day.
Okay.
We can, before we.
The state gave 15 million, and
The Iowa
I'm just
Department of
curious.
Economic Development did, and
Okay.
they did that without asking us, yes.
Absolutely, I know that's not in your, that's out of your
Well, we
thing,
don't,
but
because otherwise it would be like, you know, everybody in Polk County would get, because they've got more senators,
Sure.
so they would say, all the money goes here. So we don't get to do that. That's what the
Absolutely.
governor appoints.
They have to present their whole,
but were you guys left out of the loop on this thing? Were you ever talked to? Because obviously
We
the
were
governor
made
was brought
aware.
in, and
like a week before.
did the,
Well,
did
I
the
think
mayor
it was
ever
the
talk to you
weekend.
guys? Did the city council ever? I mean, they obviously talked to the governor about it, so I'm just curious if they left you out of the loop or what
No.
happened.
Well, it was about a week before it happened.
We just were told.
Because
that
we're
it
in the
was
11th
Yeah.
hour here on this thing. It's going to pass in probably second reading tomorrow night or Tuesday, and then 2 weeks, third reading it goes through. And I'm not saying I'm for or against. I'm only wanting to get you ladies on the record
What we're
as
saying is
Mesa City citizens.
We were made aware that the announcement
well
was
as-
happening, and that was the information.
So are you
given.
concerned about the water and the impact on the region and Mesa City itself, or are you okay with everything?
Well, that's.
Because it's going to pass probably unless
Not
people.
necessarily. Doesn't have to.
You're interrupting again, Tom. I'm trying to talk to these legislators.
But I think that, I don't know, there are people here with a lot of other issues. This is not something we can do anything about right at this moment. So
Sure, yeah, I
public-
just think it's only fair to ask you, because you live in town, and your legislators as well, that this is going to be this is the biggest project the governor said he ever saw in the state ever, and that's his words.
Well,
So,
you know,
I mean, I
that-
just think
and
it's
that's
fair to
what we
ask.
had,
I think I should
Orstown,
ask.
and, they paid how many million a dollar?
200 and some.
2
Right.
million,
Total.
2 million a worker.
So we had quite a, you know,
Who did that?
That was a
was-
fertilizer from
Oh.
plant
fertilizer
from Egypt.
plant,
yeah.
and, you know, we tried our best at that point to say that's not how we want to do it.
Sure.
And we were kind of out of the loop, if you want.
Right, and I'm not trying to put you ladies on the spot or be unfair, but
That is not our
I think it's
decision
it's
that we
the,
get to make.
this is a major thing that's in the news now in Mason City that hit the news in recent days and is going to be out of the news very quickly, because it's going to pass very quickly. It's going to be over with. They'll be breaking ground.
That's where you
So,
address it with your city council. I mean, I think that's.
well,
When's
I mean,
the council meeting next Tuesday?
Tuesday will be second reading, because they had the announcement on a Monday. Then they had first reading the next day, 24 hours later, or 30 hours later, whatever it was. So they were in the legal realm there. Second reading Tuesday, and then third reading 2 weeks later. And after third reading, they break ground. So, I mean, what I'm hearing from folks like Tom and other people that are starting to come out of the woodwork is there's major concerns about environmental, the impact on the schools. Sharon, you're an expert on the schools. Anita Message came to this library, spoke in favor of it. Didn't get the approval of the school board to do that, but she did anyway. So, you know, we're just trying to find out, you know, where you ladies stand on it.
Sorry, I'm very sorry.
Well, I would say it's out of our, there are issues that I'm concerned about that I
Okay.
hope they address.
Appreciate
We have a
that.
half-time ELL teacher right now in the school system. We'll
Sure.
probably need more than that. I know Des Moines
Can
has
you explain
over 100
ELL?
languages spoken in their school
English
districts.
Learners, English learner
Eng-
language.
English language learners, right.
But you've seen the
So-
impact in other communities. Has it been a positive? And like Marshalltown has a meat packing plant. Is that a positive thing there or not? I'm
First of
ignorant
all,
on
I'm
it, so
gonna
I don't
say,
know.
We're not, if you want to do an interview afterwards, that's
Okay.
fine. But
Okay.
we have
Sure.
probably this many people here that
Sure.
we're more than happy to have you with us. But
Thank you.
this is really.
Just
kinda-
wanted to ask the
yeah.
questions, absolutely.
So, and we're
I
fine.
appreciate you answering the questions, though.
We're not trying to do
Just
that.
trying to-
But we do
sure.
have a wide variety of other subjects.
Absolutely.
So,
Appreciate it.
Jack, I don't care about questions. Anyway.
Thank you. My name is Bennett Smith, and thank you for your service. We appreciate that.
Thank you for sending students down to see us. That's
What's
good.
that?
The students that you send down are great.
Sure, we appreciate your support of NIAC as well. I teach history and political science out of NIAC. And I do agree with your support for a robust approach to Medicaid oversight. I realize that people can disagree on whether that should be privatized or not, but it seems to me that as somebody that's really concerned about public health, that's important, right? So I would support that. But that does lead me to another issue, and that's what Matt brought up earlier regarding this hog processing plant. Because frankly, the research that I've done suggests there are enormous traumatic impacts on communities like Marshalltown and Storm Lake. And frankly, I understand, it's clear that's not in your legislative purview, but that's an extremely important political question. And I know both of you are very involved in the community, and you're very concerned about public issues. So it's just interesting to me, and frankly stunning, that you don't have a position on this yet. Could you
Well-
explain that a little more?
He said it better than I did. That's what I was driving
What
at.
do you mean
'cause
by a
Doesn't matter
position?
about
I
public
guess what you're saying.
The plant's in the state limits.
I think that we should be sure that we have the infrastructure there if you're going to do this. I think that if you're going to do things that are going to be changing the dynamics, you should make sure you get the infrastructure in place to make sure you're gonna do it. Now, what you mean by a position, I'm not quite sure what you mean.
Okay,
That
let me
I
go-
should go to the city
Let
council?
me fill that out. As a matter
Or
of
what?
concern,
Say right here.
here's my point. This has had tremendous traumatic and negative impacts on both Storm Lake and Marshalltown. And I guess my question is, that's your vision for what you'd like to see happen in Mason City?
It's your
That
hometown.
is, we did not,
No, I understand that.
I mean, I
understand
guess
that,
what
but
I'm
it
trying to
Yeah.
say
It
is
is a
we
public question.
were told that
It's a public question that the people in your
Right.
community listen to you. They follow you, they respect your opinion, and frankly, they would like to know what you think about it. They might not be in the pro-con, but what research have you done that you can help as a public obligation, just like frankly you've done with Medicaid, which we all appreciate. I'm no expert on Medicaid. And again, I want to thank you because you do a terrific job of educating your constituents on that, but how come not on this issue? How come this issue, it's like, yeah, it's not part of our
Well,
game.
first of all, it's a state budget issue. I mean, we
I'm
could argue
well
why
aware
we're
of
not
that.
coming out on whatever. That's a different story. I think it's in my budget, it's part of what I do, and I'm concerned as a taxpayer, and that's why on a federal, or on a state level, we're talking about it. We're talking about education funding on that because we
Right, but do you
are part
understand
of
the
that.
concerns that people in the community are raising, both in the
Definitely.
newspaper and I've
Yes,
heard
and that's
enormous
what we're
concerns.
saying, and I think if you've talked to us, we have said that. We have said, I think you have to be sure that the infrastructure is there. You have to be aware and plan for it if you're going to make a change like this. And have they? That's a question you need to ask the city council.
Oh, I've communicated with Mason City.
Well, that's
City
what I'm
Council.
saying. I think
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
the
Are you
question
getting
you're
any
asking.
feedback?
I've heard back from 3 city council members, and I've
Excuse
gotten
me.
feedback from people in the community regarding the issue. But again, I would just invite you, again, as valued members of the community,
Right.
as leaders that people listen to.
Right.
To research the potential traumatic impacts this will have on this community and to lead on the issue.
Right.
We recognize it's not in your legislative purview. That's
The
not-
governor
That's what
came
we're
up-
trying to say. So
I
if
mean, the state's
Hampton
involved.
puts in, changes something, I have a good-sized district, so I'm
So
not,
I
I'm
guess-
saying I would ask the same of them. I
Right.
would want them to do the same thing.
So here's what I'm going to do, is I'm gonna push this on the state level, because the state regulations in some sense guide this. And I would think the legislature, we talk about oversight in regards to healthcare, which I think you've done a very good job of being concerned about. How come it's not true in industrial agriculture in this state? That we don't have more robust oversight and
We have tried.
regulation?
Here's wait a minute, here's an example, all right? Thursday, we had Ways and Means on this water little shell game bill they had, all right? One of my a Democrat from Dubuque said, we just spent, was like 20 million to upgrade our water treatment plant. 500,000 is gonna be a drop in the bucket, was his point. But then he said, and you know what? Then we can put that water back in the river. 5 minutes later, it's full of nitrates again. I mean, it's not, they can fix the water right there for that moment, but downstream it's gonna just be the same bad water. Do you know what the chair of Ways and Means said to him? Well, you better talk to Wisconsin and Minnesota. So So that's the kind of acceptance we have for what ag's responsibility should be in this whole.
Right, and I would, frankly,
Issue.
I'm a Republican, okay? I'm not quite sure what kind yet. My
whole family
I
were
always wanted
Republicans,
to
so.
start by saying I'm not a member of an organized political party, I'm a Republican.
No, that's the Democrat.
Democrats. We really live
It might
that.
fit your party now, though,
And
I don't know.
I can't say that about certain other counties, because Barb Holdman is very organized, so I want to say that publicly. But I think it's the broader concern, I think, that on this issue, both Democratic and Republican elites tend to benefit from it. But your middle class and working class people in this town will bear all the negative consequences of this project, whereas the elites, whatever party, will be the ones that benefit. It's got far too narrow of a base of benefit, and what the long-term consequences are, and this happens in Nebraska, happens in Austin, Minnesota, Storm Lake, Marshalltown, in the long run, it reduces economic growth. It destroys the quality of life in your community. And I just think that both Republican, and I'm going to communicate with Speaker Uppmeyer and Barb Hoagland, frankly, I already have personally. I think this is a very deep and broad issue that's going to have a very traumatic impact, and we need to discuss it. At the very least, in the article that I wrote in the Globe, we should delay
I had
it. And I'm just encouraging you, and again, I want to thank you again for your service. You obviously care deeply about this community. I would encourage you to get more involved in this.
Well, and if we can talk about the industrial ag and hog lots, I
I'd be
mean,
willing
you
to.
can look at our records and
Yeah.
see where we have.
Come on,
performed.
Amanda, you don't have an opinion? You
Well,
can't
I'm
give an
talking about the
opinion?
industrial ag on what we've done and what we've tried to do, and how far have we gotten? How far have we gotten in this,
Yeah, and I would support, I will go publicly and support, probably against
Trying to
some of my
reduce
own
the
party.
setbacks
I would
and all of
support
that,
more
that's-
regulation.
I would
far more
too.
regulation because of
Moratorium
the
on
environmental
CAFOs
concerns.
until you get the water thing.
That was one of my questions that I called, and I did ask about where are they gonna get all these hogs from? When you talk about 10,000 hogs a day, that's like 7 a minute, 24 hours a day.
20,000 later, when they have two shifts, it'd be
They'll putting them
20,000.
Up in the county, you're gonna have tremendous impacts on landowners in the county. This is a broader issue than just the city
Right.
council.
well, that's what I'm trying to say. So if you're talking about the agriculture, there's two issues here. Is you've got with a plant coming in, that's,
That's one thing.
that's really separate on, that's really separate from than the industrial agriculture. I think
No,
you've got
it's
two
connected,
things.
but
It is connected, but it really is two things. So I think,
Alan?
One of the things that I'm gonna say, which is gonna probably anger some people, is they could pass all kinds of legislation, and the governor has a veto of that.
I understand.
And that's what
Yeah.
will happen.
I understand, but
But
that doesn't reduce the public obligation
We
that
need to
all of our
change the
public
governor.
leaders have. No, that's
Well,
a fair
true.
statement.
How
No,
much
but
damage
that
is
is
done
true.
before he's out, he's got what, 2 more years?
You
3
can't
more
get them
years?
out. You can't get them out. You live with them.
But that doesn't reduce our obligation as people in the community or
Right.
leaders.
You can put
that think
pressure
beyond
on him,
their
he might
narrow
change his
legislative
mind.
role
Wow.
To say, you are a public leader, and I would be concerned if I was on city council, you have a public obligation to educate the public, not to ramrod stuff through that looks way too fast. And that's
well,
what's
you
going
have
on
more
here.
than one city council member there, and they all should be aware of this situation. Have you educated them to your concerns?
Yes,
That's
I
the other
have.
thing.
Yes, I have. In fact,
And I
I will be
can't-
sending you my research. I've got a working bibliography.
Okay.
Good.
I work 70, 80 hours a week, so this is just an added burden, but I really care about this community. Mason City's a fine community. I work here. I grew up in Clear Lake, and I care deeply about it. So I'll stop now, but I want to thank you for listening.
No, but
to me.
and we're willing to talk
And I
about
wanna
this.
thank you for
That is
everyone.
not what we're trying to say, but I have more than just Mason City as
Oh,
my
I understand,
community.
but this will.
Clear Lake's coming up next. They're rising up over there right now.
And that's what I'm saying.
They're going crazy over there right now.
We're trying to understand what the ramifications are. We were not part of that decision.
I understand.
It was
and I
presented
think
to us
that's-
last week.
But I got
Quickly.
I got up to speed in about 48 hours, but anyway, thank you very much. I do appreciate that.
Can I make one statement? There's a misconception. Everybody says, well, that's a county issue when you talk about the CAFOs. The county, as long as they meet the matrix, which is this set of rules,
Right.
and it's very easily reached, And if they don't reach it, the DNR helps them get there. And they can be 1,875 feet from your residence. If you've been near one of these, if they're within a mile of you, you can't stand to sit on your porch and have a cup of coffee. Your screens are covered with flies. You can't let your dog and cat outside because they eat their ears off. But I'm told that John Skipper writes in the paper, you elect your representatives, let them take the vote. I can't vote in city council. I can't vote for the mayor. I never would. This is absolute, what they're bringing upon this city, and like he says, way better than I do, and I love you for it, sir. It's not a political thing. It's not Republican, Democrat. Your quality of life in this community and this entire area is going to be jeopardized by this thing that they're trying to fast track and ram down our throats and up our wazoos. And Clear Lake has done a tremendous job of cleaning up that lake. It's one of the best fisheries in the world. Somebody just caught a 50-inch muskie the other day. You have to go to northern Wisconsin, northern.
As the legislature has.
They're putting that to
the county
jeopardy.
has, the state has. And I agree with that. And like I'm saying, you have two separate issues here. That's unfortunate in some ways, but it
state hasn't addressed this in 20 years about the CAFOs. Nobody has addressed that down. I'm sorry, both parties, you've let this thing go because of big ag or whatever the influences are. You've had the majority and you didn't make any stricter rules on CAFOs. We need a moratorium on CAFOs till they sort out $200 million to upgrade the water system in Des Moines. And they're all spinning around in circles. Who's supposed to pay for the cleanup? Who's supposed to pay for the cleanup? They can't decide who's supposed to pay for the cleanup. When BP was pumping oil into the Gulf, did anybody have a discussion on who should clean up the mess? We know who's making the mess. Why are taxpayers picking up the bill to clean up the mess? And then on top of that mess that's already we have, they invite 4 million more heads of hogs into the state. And with those hogs comes the manure that's spread all over the fields. So whether that plant stinks or not, your community is going to stink. And so is Clear Lake. And if that manure gets into the water, they're going to have a fish kill like they had at Crystal Lake. After $3.5 million investment into Crystal Lake, you had people from Minnesota coming to Iowa to camp and fish. When does that happen? Now that community has been devastated. You're going to invite that to here. And they're fast tracking it and shoving it down our throats. You should have an opinion on this. You're citizens of this community.
I have to disagree with you on the matrix and things like that because I'm not saying that my entire party has agreed with me on things like that, but I have actually worked hard to make some difference on that. And at some point,
it's useless though, Sharon or Amanda. All your work that you have done, you said they can ram that through. You can build a hog confinement. You just file the paperwork. You just can't build it in State Park, basically.
Frankly, I think what Amanda.
What I'm trying to say is we tried to do better than that. And we did not get always what we wanted.
Yeah.
But we tried to do better than that. And you can go back and look in the record and see that, but I think we tried.
You could influence the council, though. You could influence, all the influence that you have in this community, all the respect that you have.
We don't have any influence over the council. We really don't.
Well, they're
We don't.
easily bent if people show
Yes.
up to
Everybody
things.
better face it, it's not gonna get better. When I went to school here in town, there were 2 billion people on the earth. There's 8 billion today.
Yeah.
We can't feed them, we can't give them water. There's too many people, and somebody's gonna pay for it.
But sir, the pork consumption in the United States is flatlined. Chris Peterson could address
We're
it better. He can't be
feeding the
here.
world of 8 billion people.
This pork is going to China, folks.
Well,
This pork is going to
because
China.
there's money
My
to be made.
suggestion would be to show up at the city council meeting,
Oh,
if
we
that's
will.
it. Okay.
But I think that is your avenue at this point. In this time frame,
But they got no business
that's
on
where
the city
you
council.
need to focus. So
And if you
I
have
disagree
facts,
with that.
bring the facts, bring them with you, quote those.
The governor spoke to the council and the governor spoke to the mayor and the governor came, not that you guys should have come, but the governor was there. All the Republicans were there, but the Democrats were left out of the whole announcement. It
What
was,
do you
it
mean
was,
the Democrats were left?
well, there weren't any Democrats there.
We were down working.
No, I know
Yeah.
you were, and I'm not faulting you for it. But the governor came up, he was supposed to be working too. He came up, and there's one Cerro Gordo County supervisor that's a Republican that's in for it. The 2 Democrats are against this. They've come out. I have audio that I've published that they're against it. Phil and Jay are against the plant.
Lies with the public.
What?
I think the big responsibility lies with the public in getting the word out.
Sure it does.
It does more than a few senators, The issue of environment is we're treating the
Huge.
symptom, but we're not treating the cause. So we have to start with everything that comes new to get laws that treat the cause
Right.
on new hog setups and that type of thing, so we can control these environmental needs, so they
Right.
don't continue to mushroom, so.
You have a
Yeah.
good grasp of that.
We had a legislator stand up last year when Des Moines brought the lawsuit, the water lawsuit, and basically say we were picking on them, that Des Moines was picking on them.
That's what Grassley and
And,
Moon
you know,
said.
it was, I've only been in when we've had control of the House for 2 years. The rest of the time we've been in the minority. They've been hanging on by one. It is extremely hard to get anything done. I mean, it really is
You
extremely
have to have
hard.
willing partners.
You
is
do,
what
or-
I'm trying
or-
to say to you.
I mean, when we had the conference committee on education last year, we were at 1.25. They wouldn't even come up to 1.4. You know, it was like, this is it, here, we'll throw in this extra money, which the governor vetoed, you know, so it's very difficult to get something that I feel is good done. So I think what people have to do is realize you've got a strong voice. Go to those council meetings and let it be heard and come armed with facts about other communities and what it's done. And, you know, we're gonna have to hire more ELL teachers. We don't have enough housing. The CAFOs, that worries me. That really worries me because I read Omnivore's Dilemma.
But you could come there and say that, and it would mean more from
I
you
don't-
saying that than me.
I think both our
Yes.
representative and our senator have so much on their plate already. I cannot begin to imagine the hours that Senator Ragan has spent with the managed care thing. I sit at client safety meetings at Elderbridge, and it's the case managers, they've lost 3 case managers from Elderbridge that are going to the new companies, and it's just robbing
They're
people
paid to
their
have
plate.
more on their plate. This is a major issue that's gonna impact the entire state, the city, the county, the region.
but this
They should be
managed
spending, you don't
care-
think they should spend time looking into this?
What
And
we're trying to say
So they
is-
should just get a pass and just be left out then,
We're not
right?
asking for a pass.
Well, she's
We're
giving you a
saying-
pass. She's
No,
willing to
I'm
give you a pass because you got too much on your plate.
I
don't think you know what you're talking about, but go right
This
ahead.
is gonna give you even more on your plate in time coming. It really
That's-
is.
Yes.
We've asked for, we have said, what would we want? We would say, you would need to look at what you're gonna have for infrastructure. See what you have, and Sharon's outlined a little
I've
bit
asked him
about
about
what
the
that
CAFOs,
is.
I've asked him about, what are you gonna pay these people, are they gonna get benefits?
That's another thing, you
all
have to
of
do
those.
algebra to figure out what they're gonna do. Anyway,
Okay,
I have a different subject.
yes.
I have a comment. I think we have to be careful about asking public officials for their personal feelings. If they're gonna associate with all of the issues in the state or in their community, then I think if they've got a personal opinion that I don't like, then I'm gonna use that differently than somebody else is. So I think we have to be careful about demanding a personal opinion from an elected official.
They're elected to lead. They're elected to lead.
I think what we,
That's right.
They're elected to lead and have an opinion.
The public.
And they're.
We depend on their
all the
leadership.
people, not just my opinion.
And not everyone agrees with you, sir. So you may want to take into account.
I don't have an opinion on the plant. I'm asking them for their leadership and their opinion. I'm asking them to take a position on
we
it.
told you,
That's
you
what
should
the
ask the
city
questions,
council
that's what
and
we're
you
asking.
Need to
The-
go to the city council.
The plant is in the state limits too, my friend. It's not just in the city limits, it's in the state limits too. Look at a map. Get educated.
I guess I would just ask, please.
And I believe that that is why you know, make your concerns aware to the people that can make that difference. At this point, what we're saying is, we are not those people that can make that choice for
But I
you.
beg of you to keep hammering away at making it harder to build cable. It should be a moratorium on it until we get
So,
the grip on this water
What I'm
quality
saying is
thing.
your next, what is it? You have a meeting at
Tuesday.
Tuesday night.
Monday in Clear Lake, if anyone's interested.
And Monday has
Who's
a
Mon-
city
Monday's
council.
whole city
council.
council?
They're coming in droves to Clear Lake Council to try
Well,
to
and
lean
that-
on them, and they're even out of it farther than you guys, because they're just the council and mayor.
And I
You
don't
know.
know,
But they
I don't know
are
what good
out. I
that's
mean,
gonna
really,
do, because,
What can they do?
exactly, I don't know.
They
I
think they
don't
can
know
lean
that
on
they
them through
can
the EDC.
do
They
anything.
lean on them through the EDC.
That's the hope.
I don't know what they think they're gonna accomplish by it, but they're going anyway.
I don't either. I really don't either. I don't know, other than hopefully that they can somehow, you know, I mean, like I said, people are desperate.
Well, they're getting leaders on the record. That's why I came today, just to ask you what you thought, where you were, what's going on. This is a state thing too. It's in the state boundaries. I just came to ask questions.
Right.
It's
and
not an
I think we were-
offensive
No,
We
thing.
gave you
That's fine.
fair answers back. I think
Absolutely,
so.
and I thank you for that.
I think we've all been informed by what they've said. you
Yeah,
know.
right.
Absolutely.
And that's what needs to happen. We, like I said, when you found out Friday, I found out Saturday
Yeah, so we're,
last week,
we're not,
so. We're just
we're not,
getting
we're
new to
telling
this.
you, if
Sure.
your citizens ask the questions of the people that can make that change.
Sounds like the Clear
Or
Lake
if you
mayor
wanted
and
to
city
go, go
administrator
and do
aren't
that
for
as
it.
well.
They're not in favor of it. And I'm not saying that's right or wrong. I'm only letting you know, they're kind of going on the record and saying, this isn't
The
gonna be
city
good for
council,
Clear Lake.
you mean.
Yeah.
Well, the
City
mayors, I don't know
mayor
about
and
the
city
council, but the mayor and the administrator
Yeah.
have both said this, you know, mm-mm.
I don't know about the council if they've spoken out with the mayor and the administrators. They said, what they said, when they look at a business coming into the area, the first question they ask is quality of life. How will this affect quality of life? Now, McKesson, I heard the mayor, Bookmeyer, has compared how Clear Lake handled McKesson going in there compared to what he's done here. Like he's done the same thing that they did with Now, think about that. McKesson, the worst that they could unleash on the public was truck traffic. The trucks come off the interstate, they go right to an industrial park. They do not pass a single residence. They do not go through by a single residence. There's nothing coming out of a smokestack, there's no particulates, there's no excessive water use.
In fairness, Prestige won't have that either. They won't be going by, the trucks won't go by any homes and they're gonna filter all the stuff coming out of the smokestacks.
No. I really, you know what, I really
Maybe,
don't have an
maybe,
issue with the
maybe
packing
one or
house
two.
itself. My concern is the hundreds of CAFOs that are gonna be built in the area.
Right.
That's my concern. You can have I stay out of Mason City as much as
The
possible. I
plan
gave
doesn't
up on
seem that
Mason
bad.
City
It
when
seems
they
like the
re-elected Bookmeyer.
CAFOs are gonna be in the social impact. are gonna be
Okay,
the
all
problem,
right.
so.